Welcome to The Voice Behind the Hurt, a podcast where we shed light on the pain behind the words, the stories behind the silence, and the strength that rises from both. I'm Cherie, and in today's episode, we're introducing a topic that affects more people than you might think. We're talking about body shaming. Body shaming takes many forms. It can come from strangers, it can come from loved ones, from social media, and sometimes it even comes from ourselves. And no matter where it comes from, it leaves a mark. In this episode, we'll talk about what body shaming really is. I'll share some personal experiences and explore how these words, sometimes said so casually, can shape our confidence, our identity, and our self worth. Before we get started, it is sometimes said someone is looking for sympathy when they tell their stories or their thoughts. On The Voice Behind the Hurt, this is a space to be real. You can share your story, your thoughts, or whatever's on your mind, and it's not about looking for sympathy. It's about being heard, being understood, and knowing you're not alone. Because behind every insult, every joke, or backhanded compliment, there's a voice that was hurt. And today, we're giving that voice the space to be heard. So let's talk about it. One thing I feel very strongly about is body shaming. I've personally experienced it because of being overweight, but body shaming isn't limited to just that. It includes any negative comments or actions about someone's appearance. Body shaming can be things like saying someone is too fat or too skinny. It includes calling people names like pudgy or thunder thighs, saying someone looks like they're anorexic, or calling them a string bean or skeletor. It can also be comments about specific body parts, like saying someone has flabby arms, or a chest that's too big or too small, or features like a big nose or large ears. Even more general remarks like that person is ugly, or they're disgusting, or you'd be so attractive if you just lost or gained weight. They're all examples of body shaming. And if you have experienced this, or you're currently experiencing this, you're not alone. Let's look at some statistics about body shaming. So, body image concerns begin early, with children as young as the age of 5 expressing worries about weight or shape. At 5 years old, there are children worried about this. Worldwide, about 40 to 60% of elementary school girls, that's about the age of 6 to 12, are concerned about their weight or becoming fat. 53% of American girls at the age of 13 are unhappy with their bodies. And as they get older, around the age of 17, that number rises to 78%. Now, body dissatisfaction, it's higher in females than males, but males experience this too. So surveys indicate that between 20 to 40% of men report dissatisfaction with aspects of their appearance, and this includes their physical build, their weight, their muscle tone. Now, we're going to revisit the topic of body shaming in future episodes, and I'll be bringing on guests who are ready to share their own stories and experiences. But today, I want to share my story. I've been overweight my entire life. I remember being teased, being picked on, pointed at, laughed at, and sadly, it still happens today. One comment I heard growing up was, "You'd be so much prettier if you lost weight." Now, does that mean that people who said that to me were bad people? No, not at all. Maybe that's truly how they felt. Maybe they thought honesty was the best policy. We could really speculate all day, but the truth is, words hurt. There's that old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That saying was meant to help kids brush off teasing. And in theory, it sounds strong, but in reality, it couldn't be further from the truth. Throughout my childhood, I struggled with my weight. And not just the number on the scale. I struggled with everything that came with it. The teasing, the shame, the way people looked at me and treated me. As a kid, I didn't fully understand the impact of those experiences and how it would affect me later in life. Of course, there were other factors that shaped me into who I am, but being overweight, being treated differently because of it, made one of the biggest impacts. I guess I'm lucky in some ways because I don't remember hearing negative comments or seeing the stares in school until I was about 8 years old. And at that age, I couldn't understand why people were so mean. And it wasn't just kids. Adults joined in too. I remember a fourth grade teacher who had a big negative impact on me. She used to give out candy for correct answers in class. And I was a quiet kid. I didn't really speak up much. But if no one answered a question, she'd turn to me and say, "You know you want this candy. You didn't get that size by munching on carrots." The class would laugh. I'd sit there, embarrassed, feeling like I'd done something wrong, like I was the punchline. And this was coming from someone I was supposed to learn from, someone I was supposed to trust. I was only 8 years old. Maybe if there had been more awareness around the impact of body shaming, what it does to the mind or to a child's self worth, maybe things would have been different. But even now, in a world where social media is so prevalent, I'm not so sure anything's really changed. Body shaming doesn't just leave emotional scars. It can lead to low self esteem and body image issues. It can lead to anxiety and depression, and that's outside of any diagnosed conditions. These are mental health challenges caused by how others treat you based on how you look. In some cases, it can lead to eating disorders, and in extreme situations, it can lead to suicidal thoughts and actions. When people make comments or jokes or stare at someone who looks different, whether they're overweight or underweight, or maybe they have a visible difference, they often don't think about the long term impact this has on a person. But we need to. For me, the effects started showing up in small, consistent ways. I developed anxiety and depression. I became hypersensitive to things that most people didn't think twice about. Which desk would be more comfortable? Which chair wouldn't dig into my sides? Where can I sit in the cafeteria so no one watches me eat? And that's a lot for a child to carry. Another moment I remember clearly, I was 10 years old, sitting in the doctor's office. I weighed 150 pounds. I remember the doctor telling me I weighed as much as an adult, and the look on her face, that look of disappointment, has never left me. I felt 2 inches tall. I already knew I was bigger than the other kids, but hearing it said out loud from an adult was humiliating. The thing is, adults sometimes forget that kids have feelings, that they're still people. And I remember thinking, this is all my fault. I let her down. Now, as an adult, I know that's not true, but a child's mind doesn't work like that. At school, I used to tell myself, if I stay quiet, if I don't mess with anyone, they won't mess with me. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. We moved around when I was younger, so I didn't have time to form strong friendships or figure out who I could trust until I was older. I just tried to stay under the radar. But when you're overweight, it's hard to be invisible. I wanted to be social. I wanted friends, and I did have them. I had good friends too. But I always felt like the fat friend. And even now, talking about it is hard because it's just sad. It's heartbreaking. One moment in middle school still stands out. I was walking down the hallway when a boy behind me started kicking the bottom of my feet. Every time I lifted my foot, he kicked it. Eventually, I fell, my book scattered down the hall, and he and his friends just laughed. They laughed because they made the fat girl fall. It wasn't the only time something like this happened, but it was one of the moments I've never forgotten. And I used to tell myself, just wait till I get skinny, I'll show them. But now I know that's not what matters. What matters is respect. What matters is becoming someone you can be proud of, someone who can rest their head at night and sleep in peace. Still, even as an adult, the looks, the whispers, the giggles, the pointing, they haven't stopped. It happens almost every day. People say, ignore them. They don't know you. Why do you care what they think? And honestly, I wish I had a good answer. One that made sense to them and made sense to me. I know those people don't matter, but it still hurts. What hurts even more is how common it still is. How normal society has made this behavior. We've created this unrealistic idea of the perfect body, but the truth is, it doesn't exist. Even people who are a size 0 face body shaming. They're told to eat more. They're asked why they're so skinny. Are they sick? They're judged in ways I may never fully understand. And sometimes that mindset creeps in when we least expect it. I've caught myself looking at my own daughter, who's perfectly healthy, and thinking, is she too skinny? Is something wrong? But the truth is, there's nothing wrong. Not with her. And there was never anything wrong with me either. Now, don't get me wrong. It took time. It took life experience and a lot of growth to truly understand that I'm more than just an overweight person. And even now, it's not always easy. There are days when the comments and the stares still get to me. Days when I feel like giving in and thinking maybe I'm exactly who they say I am. But deep down, I know they don't know me. They don't know that I love deeply. When I care for someone and I love someone, I go all in. And to me, that's a strength. They don't know I pour my heart into everything I do, that I'm a perfectionist who needs things done right and done well. And when things don't go as planned, it eats at me because I care. And the people who don't know me, the ones whose comments really shouldn't matter, they don't see any of that. Now, it's taken a long time to realize that. But now that I do, I can finally start to heal. One of the ways I've chosen to work through my past is by making a commitment to myself that no one will ever feel judged, ridiculed, or made to feel less than because of me. I know that many of the people who treated me like that were dealing with their own pain, their own insecurities, their own unhappiness. That old saying, hurt people, it's absolutely true. And honestly, I wish nothing but healing and peace for those who made me feel small, because I don't want that cycle of hurt to continue. I like to think that in my own way, I'm helping to break it. Another way I've worked to heal is by choosing to surround myself with high quality people. And what I mean by that is people who are supportive, who are real and honest, who are genuine, people who don't sugarcoat things, but who also show vulnerability and allow themselves to be human. Now, my circle is small, but I'm proud of it. It's made up of people who make me a better person and people who remind me of my worth. I've also come to understand something really important. This is my life. If I'm not happy with something, I have the power to change it, but only for me, not for anyone else. If I'm unhappy with my weight, I can change it. If I'm unhappy with anything else in my life, I can work on that too. Because the only thing I can truly control in this life is me. And honestly, there's no greater gift than realizing that. I am in control of my life. I have the final say. And I'm committed to making the rest of my life an amazing experience for me. That's my promise to myself. As I wrap up this episode, I just want to leave you with this. Healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's sitting with your feelings and unpacking the old pain and choosing to rewrite the story you've been told about yourself. It takes time, and it does take patience, and it takes courage. But please, don't be afraid to heal. You don't have to carry the weight of other people's words with you for the rest of your life. You are not what they said. You are not the jokes. You are not the stares or the labels. You are so much more. You are worthy, just as you are. You are lovable, even on those days you don't feel it. You are capable of healing, of growing, of building a life that feels good to live. And if you're listening right now and any part of my story spoke to something inside you, message me, comment. I want to invite you to share. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And here, on The Voice Behind the Hurt, there is no judgment, only understanding. This is a space for truth, for connection, and for healing, not for sympathy, but for strength. Until the next time, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and remember, you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to be seen, and you are more powerful than you think.